building of what is now Clemson University. And we're looking forward to that. Our guiding principles are respect. This is a sacred site, and we'll respect and honor those who are buried on this hallowed ground. Truth, we intend to tell the true history of this burial site and the many contributions of African Americans who built and supported Clemson. Listening, we intend to be listening tonight and listening to our neighbors as we go forward to learn your views on how we appropriately mark the unmarked burial sites, how we create a memorial, how we make sure that we put in place the infrastructure necessary for this not to be kind of a one and done project, but rather a project, frankly, that is an educational opportunity and that outlives all of us. And then also, we're looking at this as an opportunity to develop relationships with our neighbors around Clemson. Clemson's a land grant university, and one of the roles of a land grant university is to reach out to, enhance the lives of South Carolina citizens. And Clemson has enormous resources, and we're looking at this as an opportunity to connect the dots with what Clemson has from a resource standpoint with the needs in the communities. And even though, you could argue that's not really part of the cemetery project, it is part of my vision of how this cemetery project is something that allows us to connect as neighbors, make sure that students and faculty are educated about the importance of this site. And I guess finally, and very importantly, this is a research-driven project being led by Dr. Thomas. And the expectation is that it's being led with the same academic rigor that Dr. Thomas and our other colleagues at Clemson, use when they're doing their research. And we understand that, we don't expect to be measured by what we say. We expect to be measured by what we do. And I really do think that this is a win-win opportunity for the university and for the neighboring communities around Clemson. So again, we're going to be listening tonight, and I'm happy after Dr. Thomas makes her presentation to answer any questions, but we really appreciate the interest in this very important project. So thank you. And Dr. Thomas, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Trustee Dukes. I'm actually going to pull up a PowerPoint now, which will be a little bit easier for me to go through some things I'd like to share with you. So if you have not been over to the cemetery, this photograph on the first slide is what identifies the unmarked graves, what we believe to be unmarked graves that are located throughout the cemetery. So the hillsides that lead up to the cemetery proper, the cemetery itself, the back of the cemetery going down toward the parking lots on every side toward the stadium. You will see these white flags with pink ribbons all over Cemetery Hill. So this is kind of the backstory of how we got started with this project. Back in February of last year, which seems like a really long time ago, I was giving a Call My Name tour to Clemson students, Morgan Meloso and Sarah Adams, who are now graduates of Clemson, were with me on that tour. We came to the entrance of the cemetery. I told them that there was this area that is surrounded by a chain link fence that is known as the Fort Hill Slave and Convict Cemetery. We didn't have time to walk over, but I encouraged the folks on the tour to come back to the cemetery and visit that site. Morgan and Sarah came back, and what they found was very distressing. The fence was falling down. The site was full of trash. They were very concerned, very upset, eventually made their way back to me. And then we went to the university historian's office, worked with the campus planning office, facilities, historic properties, pulled together a group that were charged with cleaning up the cemetery. And then we were thinking about a small memorial to go on that site. This was the sign that was there at the time, which in retrospect was very misleading. It said Site of Unknown Burials, Sarah, 1865. How could it be 1865 when the historical marker said Fort Hill Slave and Convict Cemetery. So on the night before, ground penetrating radar, radar goes down into the ground, detects anomalies, which help us to know where those graves are. The night before, we found a 1960 court order. A couple of members of the team were over in special collections. That court order gave Clemson permission to disinter graves from the west side, that's the far side near the parking lot, and reinter them in the smaller area. And so we decided to do both sites, have GPR testing done on both sites. And by the end of that first day, a possible 215 graves were recovered. And by the time the surveying of the entire hill in January, 667 unmarked graves, possible unmarked graves have been recovered and detected with those white flags and pink ribbons. So there is new signage in the cemetery, African-American cemetery site, burials of enslaved people, sharecroppers, domestic laborers, and convicted laborers. So why all these people? We believe that it's possible that enslaved people as early as the early 1800s, before the Fort Hill plantation was established, between 1825 and 1830. That was when Reverend McElney set up the parsonage for the Old Stone Church, which is on Anderson Highway going into Pendleton and then into Anderson. As early as the early 1800s, sharecroppers during Reconstruction were working on the site. Domestic laborers were working there, wage workers also during the time that Clemson early years up until the lake was put in 1960, and convicted laborers. Clemson was built by mostly Black and very young convicts who were leased from the state of South Carolina by the trustees, and at least a dozen of them died while working on campus, and they are also believed to be buried in the cemetery. So this unexpected camellia story. So as I was doing research for the Call My Name project, which documents the contributions of African Americans and their life and their labors on the land on which Clemson was built, I learned about a man named Judge Crawford. He was called the Colored Gardener. He began working at Clemson in 1890, right when the convicted laborers were first brought to campus. He worked for the college for 57 years. When he retired in 1947, he was the longest working employee, white or Black, at the college. Well, there were these camellias that were associated with him. Shortly after he retired, there was a camellia test garden that Clemson established on the land right next to the cemetery. It was supposed to be named for Judge Crawford. Somehow that did not happen. So his widow asked for a street to be named in his honor. That recommendation was not considered either, but a strange thing happened this spring. As we were down exploring, Dr. Bostic, in fact, was the person who was down exploring. He saw these camellias that were blooming. We believe that these are those original camellias from that camellia test garden. This used to be a beautiful garden. Some Clemson alum who were here back in the 1990s said it was a very landscaped, beautiful area. But we kept waiting, and as spring continued to unfold, there were 11 camellia plants that had been recovered for the spring, and we will have to wait until the fall and see if additional ones bloom. So the Camellia Test Garden became the South Carolina Botanical Garden that is now on the Clemson campus. Judge Crawford's name is not included in that Camellia Garden. So we are working to rectify his omission from Clemson history by making sure that his work is honored in the Botanical Garden. And we're gonna think of a way to honor him on the grounds of the cemetery as well. So project plans, what have we been doing? As Trustee Dukes mentioned, this is a Board of Trustees project. Every time there is a specific project that is taken on by the trustees, they create a task force. We asked them also to create a legacy council, not an implementation team, because we knew this was going to be a long-term commitment to do this work and to do it well. So our research team has research historians, a graduate research assistant. We'll be hiring student research assistants, and we also bring in consultants as needed. We have a community engagement council with a coordinator and assistant. We are reaching out first to the descendant community, and those are African Americans, as well as African Americans who believe they have family buried in the cemetery, as well as the larger African American communities. And then we're going to have advisory boards for other stakeholders, including members of the Clemson community, faculty, staff, students, members of the community of people whose families are buried in the cemetery in the marked graves. Also, we will be looking at other stakeholders who have an interest in the cemetery. We want to cast a wide net and talk to many, many people who are interested in the site. So phase one, what have we been up to for almost the last year? As I mentioned, the Clemson Board of Trustees appointed that Task Force and Legacy Council to start this work. Preservation South surveyed the entire cemetery using ground penetrating radar to identify those unmarked graves, places where we think there are unmarked graves, and then grid or map the location of all graves. They're finishing up that work now. Also, we hired academic researchers and community engagement staff. We just today hired another community engagement assistant. We created our research team, our community engagement council. We began the historical research. We expanded our community engagement. We've been meeting with communities about every other month or every 2 to 3 months on Zoom. Trustee Dukes and I have met with lots of people, had great conversations about the project and about needs in local communities. Also, we have been developing a plan. We will be rather developing a plan for full focused engagement with families of the modern burials and our Clemson University community and alumni. We also have developed a project website. Please check it out, clemson.edu/cemetery, where you can get up-to-date information. You can read primary documents. There's a timeline. There are maps of the cemetery, of the burials, the known burials, the unknown burials, lots of good information. And then last October, we started quarterly public tours. So our research team, we've arranged for consultations with Dr. Lynn Rainville and Dr. Michael Blakey, who are both experts in burial grounds, and Dr. Blakey also in community engagement initiatives. We are creating a database for reconstructing local African-American communities from the antebellum period to the 1950s, late 1950s, when the lake was put in. We are identifying the convicted laborers who died while they constructed Clemson. As I mentioned, it's about 12 that we've identified so far. We're reviewing materials in our Clemson University libraries, special collections and archives. Brenda Burke, who is the director, along with other members of her staff, are supporting our research. We're updating the project website with our research findings, volunteer opportunities, which should start this summer, and project events. And we're also researching archaeological surveys that have been conducted on the cemetery site. This includes the Army Corps of Engineers, when Lake Hartwell was put in, Carol Cohen Ricks, an African-American anthropologist, archaeologist, who is working on the west side. That's the side nearest to the parking lots on the back side or the west side of the cemetery in 1990 to 1993. Sadly, Carol Cohen Ricks died shortly after she left Clemson of lupus. And Jonathan Leader, the state archaeologist, has come out and done some work on the site, most notably in the early 2000s. So community engagement. What are some of the things we've been doing? Again, the Zoom forums that we've been having, we have also asked our descendant community to help identify families. So far, there have been a few families that have said they think, but we're still talking to them to try and document those stories. Clemson students are involved in the project, everything from the civil engineering class of 120 students who want to help us think about pathways in the cemetery. There are currently graves under some of the asphalt areas of the cemetery that we need to preserve and mark. Architecture student Gabe Jenkins just graduated, created a design concept, and I want to emphasize concept. He took this on as his senior project. So it was nice to see some ideas of what's possible, but that is not the final design. We have not hired a design team. Another student, William Slater, is interested in trees. We did a walk through the cemetery, and he is identifying the oldest trees, and we will identify them as witness trees. And we will have a creative inquiry team starting this fall for undergraduate students. Our alumni, we've reached out through Beba Breton on the Alumni Association Facebook page back in February. I gave a presentation to the Commission on the Black Experience in their spring forum in April, and cemetery tours. If you have not seen the flyer, on June 13th between 12 and 6 p.m., we will be giving guided 1-hour tours of the cemetery. If you have a group that you would like to schedule a separate tour, we are willing to do tours for special groups as well. All of that information is on the website. So phase 2, what will we be doing next? Starting next month, this is next week, we're going to continue our research activities that we started last summer and our consultations. We will be planning a fall research symposium for academics and the public about cemeteries on university campuses throughout the nation. We will be implementing a community engagement ambassador program. This will link people on campus with people in the community to start conversations everywhere. Big Zoom or big forum meetings are great, but we have been advised to also have conversations at the coffee shop or on someone's porch or at a church picnic. So we want to provide many different opportunities, and our ambassadors are going to help us do that. We also are going to be conducting an archaeological survey of the entire cemetery site. This has not been done. There's been a lot of work on the west side and some on the south side. There are some who believe the cemetery has connections to indigenous communities, and that would be the Cherokees. The town of Seneca or Senegoo was located on the land where Clemson was built. We want to explore that possibility. So this summer there will be a survey. We have not scheduled it yet. We're in the process of locating a firm to do that work. And we're gonna create a preservation plan at some point after that survey is completed and we get the report back from Preservation South regarding the ground penetrating radar work. We will be sitting down with the descendant community, families of modern burials, our university community, and other stakeholders to think about how do we preserve this cemetery as a sacred place? How do we make sure that everyone who is buried there is honored? How do we make sure the story of that cemetery, Woodland Cemetery itself starting in 1924, along with the unmarked burials that have been recovered, along with any other aspects of that site, how do we make sure that the public knows that story, that that site is preserved, that we never have a moment again in the future where any part of that cemetery is full of trash or the fence is falling down. We will be talking with lots of different groups to pull that plan together. And then, when that time comes, the Board of Trustees will approve that plan and we'll go into our final phase of implementation, the procurement process, to make sure that plan gets implemented, the memorial, deciding where it's going to be, what it's going to look like. That's all in phase 3, which will start after we finish all of those things I just talked about. So I'm at the end for questions. I want to go forward to this last website that has our web address again, clemson.edu/cemetery. There's a phone number, please call. You can leave a message if you don't reach me in my office. And then if you want to email us, appandburials@clemson.edu, please do so. We want to talk to you. We want to hear your ideas. We want to answer any questions that you have. So now we're going to open the floor to have your questions posed. Any ideas you want to share? We are all ears.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi. My name is Andrew Peppers with the MOCA Foundation. And I've been listening in, and I'm hearing, a lot of, plans and things such as that. But, my thing is that the important point here is that we know that African Americans really contributed to the beginning of Clemson. And if we know that much, my next question is why haven't there been some sort of movement? I do hear that a lot of people have been hired and a lot of people from the community and things such as that. But I've yet to hear any real solutions that are effective that allow you to move past doing more than research. The research is much needed. We're grateful and we're thankful for that. But this is kind of personal to me in a way because my grandmother lived on that burial site. She washed her clothes in the creek or the little river that used to run through there. So what I'm saying is that not many people have that sort of story for the burial site. Yet my family does, and I feel like that my family has been excluded from this mission here. And I have several solutions that I feel as though that would allow us to move forward. But and still none of these have been explored, and that is very troubling to me because if we're trying to move forward, if we're working together, it does not matter who brings a solution. As long as it's an effective one, then progress can be made. But as long as things are staying the same, then there's not going to be any change that's being made. Because I'll finish up with this. I hear a lot of money being thrown out there to people, but then if you go back and listen to what's been said so far, there aren't any answers. There's a lot of we hired or we're developing a plan and this sort of thing. That's not fair to the community. It's not fair to the community to do it that way because it's like we're dictating who can bring forth change. And I believe that is the same mentality that the slave masters had, right? And so with that same mentality, that didn't allow everyone to be involved or to give innovative thought or that sort of thing. So I think that our mentality needs to change. Again, the research is excellent and is great. I read it myself and that sort of thing. But when we talk about actual change, I've seen change take place all across the United States of America. But if we get hung up into, we got to do this research to move to from A to B without honoring what we already know, who helped to make this whole thing possible, then that seems to me to be a delay. So I'll turn that over respectfully. But there's a lot that I think that we need to think about. Thank you.
Dr. Thomas. Dr. Thomas, this is
Yes.
Rosa Grayton.
Mm-hmm.
And to Mr. David Dukes, I believe I got your name right.
Yes, yes.
I first want to say thank you for having this Zoom with the community and bringing us together. And as you know, I understand what has been said and I understand what has been done. Because of my longevity of 30 years at Clemson University, is that my mother was hired and she worked at Clemson University. Mr. Bill Greenlee, he did things at Clemson University. I can name a whole slew of people because of my age and the input that they had on me within the university. So I believe that's why I became employed at Clemson, because everybody was talking about Clemson. And we all have our ups and downs. And yes, our history has been kind of hidden from the actual reality of what it is now. So because we're talking about the gravesite, and this is what I think was brought to the forefront. And I think anything else, we can, because we got a lot of people on the call. So I would personally like to focus on the graves and what we would like to do and how we need to expand and let's become educated with the people that we don't know and the people that has been buried, if that's possible. But I'm sure after all the longevity of time that you probably can't identify a lot, if I'm correct. Because as you know,
there's a lot of technology. Some of that stuff you watch on TV is actually true. So we'll be talking about that when we get our archaeological survey done. I want to compliment what you're saying, Rosa. So what we're doing tonight is two-pronged. We want to talk about the cemetery. And for those of you who have ideas about specific things that you want Clemson to do, you have community representatives, Pastor Dr. Johnson, Ms. Rosa Graydon, and Delphine are embedded in your community. There are people that you can talk to about specific ideas that you believe Clemson should do to address inequities, to address providing resources to the communities. If there are specific things that you want to do, there is going to come a time. There are things that we have to do, and I know it seems like forever, but I have been at Clemson for 14 years, and I can tell you that the conversations we're having now about Clemson history are very different. And there are people on this call who can also support this, are very different than when I first arrived. So I think that, things are changing. We're here because we want to listen. You have community representatives that you can talk to. I gave you the phone number, the email address. You can talk to us yourselves. Trustee Dukes is a person who loves sitting down, talking to people. He's been on every one of these calls with me over the almost last year. He can't wait to meet you in person so he can talk to you even more. So that's kind of the two-prong approach. We wanted people in the community. So this is not Clemson making decisions that are best for the community, right? It's not Clemson. It's Rosa, and these are just your representatives. And if you want to come and talk to us yourself, you can. It's Pastor Zachary, it's Delphine, members who live in your community, right? Not the folks on the hill who are your neighbors. This is, it's a very different situation. It may not look like it, but I'm guaranteeing you we're doing things differently this time. And COVID has slowed us down, and I don't use that as an excuse. It's just the reality. But we're really trying to do this differently. And if you'll work with us, I guarantee you're going to see a different result. It may just take a little longer, but we're going to get there. Trustee Dukes, you want to add anything?
No, I mean, I agree. And we were breaking up a little bit, so I didn't get the gentleman's name who spoke before Mrs. Gray. Who was that? Well, anyway, to address those concerns, I mean, we're very focused on the cemetery project, but I'm very focused on this being beyond the cemetery project, because I think this creates a dialogue on campus with the Board of Trustees, with the administration, with the faculty, and with students to address the issues that haven't been addressed in the past. And, that includes telling a true history of the contributions of African Americans. And frankly, I think in this environment, excuse me, it means having a dialogue about the issues that, that we all know are going on in society. Our focus of this task force and legacy council starts with the cemetery. And that's really what we've been charged with. But I don't have blinders on. I mean, I think there are opportunities here to do the right thing with the cemetery. And that's sort of our mantra, is we are going to do the right thing, do it in a way that we're proud of Clemson. I think this will be a historic site that folks will visit. I think students will become aware of it when they take tours or when they're thinking about Clemson. But also, I'm perfectly happy to have conversations in addition to the cemetery about how we make, excuse me, Clemson the place that we want our children and grandchildren to all feel very comfortable about attending and to be proud of Clemson.
So are there other questions or comments, concerns? So one of the things that we do sometimes, I'm sorry, is there someone trying to speak?
Rhonda,
Pastor Johnson, go ahead.
what was the young man's name again? Because I want to know his name myself. That was speaking before Rosa. Is he still on the call?
His name was Andrew.
Yes.
Yes.
Was Andrew?
Yes, Dr. Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Andrew Peppers. I have met you at the cemetery when we went on the tour. I was in your group.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Andrew. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Thomas, and Dr. Is it David?
Yeah, it's just David.
David. Okay, I appreciate you guys, and Dr. Johnson. I do think that this is very helpful. At some point in time, I do feel as though that I would like to meet with David, Dr. Johnson, and Dr. Thomas, because I feel as though that there could be a lot of progress that's made here because we all have the same agenda here. I mean, we all want, those from the cemetery to be honored and that sort of thing. So we all have the same agenda. I just feel as though, we just have to meet and I think that we can move forward. I really do. And I'm very hopeful. So, but I appreciate the Zoom that you had tonight, Dr. Thomas. Thank you so much.
Well, Andrew, I will absolutely take you up on that, and I look forward to taking you up on that in person. I'm about zoomed out.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
And I'm the same way, Andrew.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
So one of the things we've done in recent calls is just have everybody introduce themselves. If you don't mind, you don't have to turn your cameras on. You can speak from behind the veil if you want. But it's helpful for us to know who we're talking to. We see your names, but sometimes your names betray who you are. So because everybody's screen looks different, I'm just gonna call names out. And if you could just introduce yourself quickly, who you are, where you're from, because it looks like we've got people not just from Clemson and Central, but from some other places. Anything else you wanna say. So I'm just gonna go across my screen quickly and see if we can do this. Sabrina Greenlee. Do you want to say anything?
It's not Sabrina Greenlee, it's Judy
Okay.
Randolph. I'm under Sabrina Greenlee because I set up our Zoom meetings for smooth.
All right, Deborah. If you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from.
I'm Deborah Hamilton. I am from Clemson. I grew up in the Golden View Church area, right up the street from the church. I've lived there most of my life. I now live in Seneca, but I'm still a member of the Golden View Baptist Church family, and I still have ties to the Clemson African-American Museum. I've served on the board there. I attended Clemson from 1970 to 74. Didn't quite graduate, but I attended, and I have some deep ties to the university. My parents, my mother worked there, my grandfather worked there, my aunt. Several of my aunts and uncles worked there. So Clemson University and Clemson area has always been very special to me because it's my home and it's where, my heart is. So I'm here to learn more and to try to help where I can.
Okay, thank you. Yolanda?
Yes, my name is Yolanda Green, and I'm from Golden View Baptist Church. I grew up in the Clemson area. My great-grandfather, David Green, worked at the university for many, many years. So I'm very excited to be a part of this project.
Okay, and you said you have grandparents and parents worked at Clemson?
My grandfather, David Green,
Okay.
worked at the mess hall in the university for a long time.
Okay. Would love to talk to you more about that.
Okay.
All right, Russ Oglesby.
Russell Oglesby, grew up in the Clemson community, the area of Abel.
All right, thank you for coming. Somebody whose picture says iPad.
I'm Carrie. Sorry, I forgot to do that. I'm Carrie Walker. I grew up in the Old Stone Church area. I live in Greenville now, but my grandfather worked there. Cato Spencer worked there for 45 plus years. My aunt Geneva Brownlee worked there for 30 something years. Clemson was just basically the workforce for a lot of us growing up in the area. I worked at Clemson Police Department, and so now I'm out. But I'm here interested in learning a lot. I've learned a lot listening to you guys, and y'all done a lot of work, heard the stories of Clemson and how to develop. And I wanted to bring up something with Rosa, you may remember this when they were doing Little John Community Center. Arlene interviewed, oh my God, Miss Gant, I can't think of her name right now. And Miss, oh God, Shaw, you know who I'm talking about, your aunt. All those people when they were trying to get information. Georgia, yeah. Georgia Witt. There should be an audio somewhere. I think there's one out in front of Little John Community Center. You remember? I can't think of it. They were asking them about how Clemson developed and, you know, the history of what was going on. So I think that they may have some raw video used too.
I don't know who would have that information. Maybe Adrian could guide you there, Dr. Thomas.
Okay, so it was Carrie, right?
Yeah,
Carrie Walker.
Carrie Walker.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Who else? Gant, it looks like on the screen.
Yes, I'm Ron Gant, and I grew up in Clemson in the Abel area, and I'm here with my wife, Joetta. And I had, my father worked at the university, my grandmother worked there, my aunt, uncles worked there, and I worked there also.
Yeah, we need to talk to you too, Mr. Gant.
Okay.
I will be following up with you. Who do we have? Cicely?
Yes, hi, my name is Cicely Galloway. I grew up in Clemson. I'm from the Vista area. I have had several family members and friends and things that Clemson retired from Clemson for years.
You've been laughing all night.
Basically, and I'm still, I don't live in Greenville. I mean, I don't live in Clemson now. I live in Greenville, but I'm very active in Clemson. So
okay.
I want to see how this is going to flourish.
Okay.
And I appreciate all you all work for everything that you've done.
Thank you. Michael Limahu.
Hi, Mike Lemieux. I'm Dr. Thomas's colleague in the English department. This is my daughter, Alice. We've just been interested in Clemson history, African-American history, and Call My Name for a long time, and here to kind of support and do whatever we can. We really respect this work a lot. We live in Pendleton, and so it's been interesting to see our university research connections intersect with the community connections that we've made over the last 20 years in Pendleton.
And
Michael, it's David Dukes. We communicated when we were making the decision to change the name of the Honors College. So it's nice to actually, put a name with a face.
Trustee Dukes, I was really thrilled to see you were chairing this task force and to hear you talk about what Dr. Thomas is leading with the cemetery effort, leading us to a larger engagement with the community. And I think Pendleton offers a number of possible opportunities for that. So I'd be happy. I appreciated your support last summer, and I would be happy to talk to you more about that.
Well, we had said we'd grab a cup of coffee or a beer, your choice. And now that I think we can be together in person, I look forward to that. So appreciate you being here tonight.
All right, let's make that happen.
And I just want, Alice, I hope I don't embarrass you, but Alice is going to be working with Call My Name this summer. So I will be talking with her parents about her research assignments. So you are never too young to contribute to Call My Name. And I look forward to bringing Alice onto the team this summer. So Bessie, I'm not sure, is that you that's there?
That's me.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, as most people know, I'm with the Clemson Area African-American Museum for many, many years and enjoyed every bit of it because that is our history and I want to preserve it. And what you've been with us a long time, you were the ones that helped get it started and many, many years ago. So and I just think for what y'all are doing, I went on one of the trips that you went on just to see the cemetery and all the things that Clemson has done. And I really enjoyed when you was taking us on the tour. So you have collected so much fantastic things about Clemson. I give y'all everything y'all deserves to make it happen. And I would love to help you any way I can. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So Bessie, if you could mute yourself now, please. Thank you. Elizabeth Carney. Elizabeth, unmute yourself, please.
There. I live about a half mile from the cemetery, and I was long in the history department. I do ancient history. And I've always felt taking students around that we weren't knowing either much of the story of what happened here. And I think it's really important that we connect to the people in the place, and that names are really important. Even if we can't connect to individual graves, to see the names again. I think that's important, and I'm very happy this is happening.
Well, we have lots of names, so that won't be a problem. We have lots of names. So whatever memorial is installed, we'll have lots of names, I can assure you. Alicia?
Hello, everyone. Apologize, I joined late, had another meeting, but I'm Alicia Smith and I wear 3 different hats. I'm the Executive Director for Equity Compliance and the Title IX Coordinator at Clemson University. I also serve as the chair for the Commission on the Black Experience at the university, and I am a member of City Council for Clemson. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem, and as Rhonda had mentioned, we are always looking and working with members of the community, and so we support the work that Dr. Thomas is doing here and want to hear from community members actually involved in several different community meetings, organizations, and trying to ensure that we are telling the story and meeting the needs of our residents and let our residents actually be a part of and lead the discussion and not necessarily be a part and not letting them have that voice. So I just want you to know that we're here to help and support in any way that we can. And I'm glad to be a part of the meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Zoe?
Hey, it's Zoe. I am the reporter with the Greenville News and Independent Mail. I cover Clemson. And so I've been following this story along since Sarah and Morgan reached out to me, I guess well over a year now, and just kind of, wanting to keep up with everything that's going on. Don't really have an agenda or a story to write from this meeting, but just wanting to stay up to date with everything.
Right.
And Zoe, we appreciate the coverage too, because it's meaningful for us to get the message out to the community. So, I've seen you at tours, and we appreciate your participating tonight.
I'll say that we're owned by USA Today, and they always pick up these stories. And I've gotten several emails from people spread all across the country, who see these stories and think maybe I have family there. So it's great to be able to see Dr. Thomas's research have this effect, reaching across the whole country.
Well, I think one of the stories that you wrote, Zoe, was picked up and published in California, and a middle school teacher actually emailed me, and I did a live Zoom session for his students from the cemetery about 2 weeks ago. So your work is having a huge impact.
That's amazing. Yeah, so kind of the next piece is just kind of picking up on just the community and hearing from people like all of you guys. So you know, getting past the technical radar type stuff. Now that's kind of passed, but I'm around.
Okay. Donna? Donna, if you could unmute yourself.
I saw this link posted on the Clemson site. I guess I've been following this project out of just sheer interest since I first heard about it. Could that go back 7 or 8 years maybe, Dr. Thomas? I'm not sure. But I've enjoyed the opportunity of being able to sign on as an interested person and get so much information. I think everything you've done has just truly been thorough and certainly well organized. And it's just nice to get this update, this thorough update. And thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'll continue to follow as best I can.
Okay. Thank you so much for your interest in the project.
Oh, I love it.
And for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Lee Morrissey.
I'm Lee Morrissey. I'm a colleague of Rhonda's and of Mike Lemmahughes in the English department. As the founding director of the Humanities Hub, I work closely with Rhonda and a group of partners, including CAM and the Bertha Lee Strickland Cultural Museum in Seneca and the Pendleton Foundation for Black History and Culture. We've been community partners now for 4 years, having conversations like this monthly. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. William? Arnaz?
Hi, I'm married to Elizabeth Carney. I've been walking my dogs for years.
Okay.
Back behind Death Valley, having no idea what was there. And I am really impressed by the work that you were doing.
No, thank you for coming tonight. Fox Carolina, you want to introduce yourself? All right, Angela.
That's actually that's our engineer.
Okay,
but I'm
Amber,
also from Fox Carolina.
All right,
We
so
have
you want
2
to say
people
anything?
logged
I
in.
think you put something in the chat.
Oh yeah, just that I am very impressed by your work here, and I just hope that I am still here in this area to keep covering these very important stories and just watching your work. And I hope that the world sees it because it's really amazing.
Well, thank you. And I think Amber put something in the chat. There's a message over there. She would like to interview any community members who are here. Her phone number is there, email address is there. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, her info. So check that out if you would be willing to talk with her about your interest and involvement in this program. I'm trying to see if I left anybody off. Francis Brown.
Hello, Dr. Thomas. I just want to say, well, I'm from Seneca, but I've been working for the university for almost 22 years now, and I'm just glad to be, on the Zoom meet, have this opportunity to be a part of this, and it's been very informative, and I just think that it's great, what you're doing, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. And we got a team. So I want to thank the team for all the support. Yeah, this is an army of folks who are working on this project.
Well,
But thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
It's an army, but you're right. The general is Dr. Thomas. And, I graduated from Clemson back in 1981 and my wife in 82 and 3 children in the last 5 years. And Dr. Thomas is very special and makes Clemson proud. And just participating with her in this project.
All right, David, I think we lost you. All right, there's a couple more folks. There you're back. All right, David, you faded out for a minute, but thank you for those kind words. I'm going to try and squeeze in the last few people, Abel Bartley and Jermaine Johnson. Just a quick hello from you all, please, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I think it's locked up.
Ah, okay, you're back.
Abel Bartley, I'm in the history department, and I just want to say that this is really important work. I don't think any other university is doing quite the kind of work that Clemson is doing, so Dr. Thomas and her army should be.
Yes, and Dr. Bartley, we will be in touch with you. We want to involve the commission with some of the work that we're doing. We started that conversation. We need to follow up on it this summer.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jermaine Johnson. I'm an attorney for the university and I also attend some of the Legacy Council meetings, and just really want to commend Dr. Thomas and Trustee Dukes on the work they have done thus far. They put in a enormous amount of effort into this project, and I'm just really proud of what it's developing into.
All right, I tried to get to everybody. Is there anybody I missed that needs to introduce themselves? We have
yes. Hi. My name is Angela Holland. I'm from Seneca. I currently work at the university. I attended Clemson, graduated in 1990, and my mother's family was raised in the Old Stone Church area, and a lot of her brothers work for the university. So I have a lot of uncles that have retired from Clemson, a lot of cousins. So we have a long history with Clemson University.
Okay, Ms. Holland, I'll be following up with you too.
All right, thank you.
We want to document as many of those stories as we can. As I said, we'll be able to call a lot of names, and if families are willing to tell those stories and share those stories, we think it's important to get them recorded, to get them in our archives, to share them with the public as appropriate. But this is important history, and Clemson was built by Black labor, and you know, from the very beginning, and in a certain respect to the current day, there are still many African-American employees who are doing the hard work at Clemson, keeping the university running and operating smoothly behind the scenes often. So we just have a couple of minutes. We try and keep these meetings at about an hour, but I just want to offer an opportunity for anybody to ask a question, to share a concern, to give us an idea, anything you want to say in these last few minutes that we spend together. Again, this first round, very informal conversations, information sharing. We want to try and be as transparent as possible about what we're doing. But thank you all for coming. This is one of our largest community Zooms. So we're thrilled to see each of you here. But are there any final thoughts before we sign off?
Yes, I just want to say certainly thank you, David Dukes, for coming on and sharing your perspective with us and giving us the introductive messages that you said, because it certainly is important for us to know that you all are supporting and behind it.
Well, thank you very much. And we are genuinely, and I'm pretty easy to find. You Google David Dukes lawyer, and I mean, if somebody wants to have a one-off conversation, I'm completely open to that. You know, we're blessed to have Dr. Thomas leading this and the other projects she leads. And, you know, we all know that the way we solve problems and the way we make progress is we sit down together and we listen and we talk. And I welcome that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, David Dukes has changed my attitude toward trustees. So he is one of the most easygoing, laid back, you know, I tell him, I said, he's the kind of friend that you would be able to, I say lemonade because I don't drink other things, but I want to invite David over to sit on my back porch and drink lemonade and just talk and chat. He's that easy to be with, that easygoing. So when he tells you that he is willing to sit down with you and talk with you, he really means it. So I just want you all, you know, to know that you can take him up on that. You can take me up on it. We want to talk with you. We want to engage. And we're just so happy that you came out to spend some time with us this evening. You know how to find us. You know, Google Clemson Cemetery or, clemson.edu/cemetery. All the contact information is on that page. Updates are regularly posted on that page. We just look forward to more engagement. There'll be more community meetings this summer and fall, so look for announcements on the website of your city, on our Facebook. We're going to have social media launching this summer, so we'll make sure that information gets to you. And remember, if you are in Clemson or Central, Rosa Graydon, Pastor Johnson, and Delphine. Delphine, what's your last name? I'm sorry, I'm having a brain moment. There are 3.
It's Delphine Jamison. Most people know me as Delphine Hicks.
Yes, you have 3 people in your community. There are also Terrence Hassan is in Pendleton, who works with the council. Shelby Henderson, Helen Roseman Saunders over in Oconee County. So we are going through the community to get ideas, to start those conversations. So you can reach out to them, you can reach out to us, please do. And thank you once again for coming, and hope to see you again on our next Zoom session. All right, thanks again. You all have a nice evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go Tigers.
Bye.
Yes.